The LEGO set we are reviewing today is probably the most playable Technic set of the year. It's also the cheapest set with Control Plus system currently on sale. Some of you may already know why it's so interesting and fun. This car can be flipped. On the one side, it's a tracked race car, on the other side, it's an expedition vehicle. Perhaps it's because this car is too fun to play with. Many people may overlook that it also has several very interesting and classic mechanical designs. Today we will take a deep dive into this car and show you its classic but innovative designs. At the end of this video, we will also compare this to another set, number 42139, released at the same time period with similar parts number. Now let's begin the build. Open the first bag, we can immediately see the new gears. A 12-teeth gear numbered 69778 and a 20-teeth gear numbered 69779. They are the same size as the old 12-teeth and 20-teeth gears. The difference is that the new gears are spur gears. The old ones are bevel gears. In terms of application, the drawback of these new gears is that they can only be used parallelly. Bevel gears can be used intersectively. On the bright side, they can be used to drive LEGO chains. And the gear mesh is much more stable. Later we will see the application of these gears in this set. Here we can see a brand new 3x19 frame, which can also be seen in the McLaren F1 car released earlier. Here we can see the drivetrain of this car. Power from the 2L motors comes through the 20 to 12 gear sets on both sides, then drive the tracks directly. A fairly simple design. Here we can't actually tell that it's necessary to use these two new gears. You can achieve the same function by just using the old gears. Now we can see the whole frame for the chassis. The driving wheels and trailing wheels are put on. These spots are for road wheels, which will be put on later. We can also see some clips holding the power cables neatly onto the frame. Here we can see another new part numbered 80286. It has the same side profile as another 5L Technic panel, so they can be put together. Besides, you can also use it as an angled arm. Here's another new part that we have already seen on the McLaren F1 car, so we are not getting into it in this video. Here we can see its flipping module. Relative to the frame, the body and the chassis are joined together via 3 spots. The orange part here is one of the joint spots. It's also the pivot for the body. Other 2 joint spots are on the shocks connected to the frame. When the body of the car moved over the center line, the shocks will push the entire body to the other side. And that's not even the most impressive part of this car. Let's move on. Here we can see an interesting rear wing design. When the blue side body is lowered and the car is flipped, the wing will retract automatically, which gives the car a flat bottom when it's in expedition vehicle mode. There's a leverage structure here, a rubber band holding the ball joint on one end. And there's a beige pin as the pivot, which controls the rear wing to lift up or down when the car is transforming. But that's still not the most interesting part of this car. Let's move on. When we finished the third bag, there are only tracks left to put on. Here we can see that there's self-balancing suspension on the road wheels. When one wheel is lifted up by an obstacle, the other wheel will move down to keep the track on the ground. Here's the most interesting part. It's a design that can be easily overlooked. There's actually a set of shock absorb system between these road wheels. And there's no spring shock, nor axles act as torsion beams. Roughly to say is that LEGO put an unstable pentagon structure here. We made a simplified version of it. We can see that when the main axle of the suspension is moving up, the gray beam will move all the yellow beams to slightly bend via this red beam, to achieve the function as shock absorber using the elastic stress. Although, this car is fairly lightweight, so this design is not that practical in terms of the application on this car. But still, after knowing how it works, it's very impressive. Now, let's move on. Finally, we finished this car after 3 to 4 hours of building. First we put in 6 AA batteries, then launch the Control Plus app. After some simple calibrations, we can start to control this car. By changing the speed of the tracks, we can make the car achieve different driving dynamics like going straight, differential steering, braked steering, counter-rotation turn, and so on. We can see that at the highest speed, this car is moving fairly quickly, and the counter-rotation turn is very nimble. Let's try flipping it. After testing, we found out that this car performs very stably. Overall, we think that LEGO's purpose of this car is hope that it's a RC car that people will actually take outdoors to play with. Let's check out its look. We can see that on this side it's a slick-looking race car, but on the other side it's a truck, although LEGO calls it an expedition vehicle. There are massive amount of stickers on both sides to enrich all the details. From details like headlights, roof lights, steering wheels, and dashboards, we can tell that LEGO has put some effort into designing the look of this car. Worth mentioning, on this side, LEGO has put a switch to turn the master control on and off. Now let's compare it to the number 42139 ATV that's released at a similar time. We can see that the transformation car is much larger than the ATV. That's because the master control and the motors took quite a lot of space inside. Besides parts numbers, their age category is also similar. However, if you are buying these online, there's a $50 price gap. If you can't decide which one to buy, here are our opinions. First, these two are positioned quite differently. The ATV mainly focus on all kinds of working functions, but the designs aren't that impressive. The transformation car's advantage is the great playability. It may not have that many functions, but the design is far more impressive than the ATV. So if you want to buy a LEGO that's also a RC car you can play with often, then the transformation car is the perfect choice. If you just want to put them on display, then just see which look and mechanical design you prefer, then make the decision. Now let's take a look at the packaging. The renders of the two modes of this car are on the two sides of the box, with different background to suit each vehicle. Inside, there are 772 pieces in 5 bags. There's also a master control and 2 L motors. The manual is fairly thin with only 197 steps, plus a small sticker sheet. Finally, there's one more interesting detail. There are 192 pieces for the tracks in this set, which means there are only around 500 pieces regular parts for this vehicle. That's the end of this video. Let us know which set you would like to see us review in the comments. We'll see you next time.